It's time again for the Insiders with Chuck Chvala and Scott Jensen, sponsored by the Wisconsin Counties Association and the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership.
Hi, I'm Scott Jensen, former Assembly Speaker.
And I'm Chuck Chvala, former Senate Majority Leader.
And we're the Insiders. And this week, we're talking about a topic. This was a topic that was relevant when you and I were leaders in the legislature. The future of the UW system. We've got a situation where we're closing some of the 2-year campuses. There are layoffs coming to the 4-year campuses. What's the future of the university system going beyond this momentary pressure? What's the future of this system?
Well, I think that different campuses have carved out different niches that have helped them. You think of La Crosse and some of these other places around the state. But obviously, Platteville and Oshkosh, which are facing tremendous layoffs, there are obviously problems here. I think over the long run, I think education is becoming a more and more valuable commodity internationally, nationally, wherever. And hopefully that will mean that at the end of the day, these places will do fine. And the good thing is they're making tough cuts at a time when they need to be made in order to be able to survive. Although certain campuses are closing, and the lack of accessibility is always troubling to someone like myself who looks at education with 2 parents who are both teachers, is really the fundamental. It's always been the gateway to the greater life in the United States. It's been part of the American dream. So any kind of loss in this area bothers me. But what is disturbing is that there seems to be this concern that we're going to be more focused on DEI issues, with Robin Vos saying, you're not getting raises, you're not getting money until that happens. What I'm afraid of is, again, we are demonizing education and teachers. And when you can do that, you can demonize anything in our society. And the fact that Robin Vos is able to say, I'm not going to give you the money that you deserve, you good teacher who teaches math in Platteville or engineering in Platteville. And by the way, Platteville is an engineering campus. We're going to deny that to you because we have some other political issue. I think that that's a mistake. I think the bigger threat here, if we were really to take a step back, it's not just that we're seeing fewer students and that, population things have changed. It's, are we going to be committed to education over the long term? And if we're not, that's a bad sign for our state.
Well, I think the pressures that the UW system is experiencing here in Wisconsin are not unlike pressures that colleges and universities all over the nation are experiencing. We're expecting closures of colleges all across the country. Some of that is because of the demographic shift. There are fewer people of college age than there used to be. Some of it is because we've actually been successful in convincing people that, whereas before we told them you need to get a college degree in order to be a success in life, when now we're saying, no, you need to have a set of skills in order to be a success in life. And some people have figured out that you can probably become an electrician or a plumber and make more money over the course of your lifetime than be someone with be an English major or a poli-sci major like I was coming out of a university. So some of that is a change in the demographics, and I think the UW has been very slow to react to it. A lot of conversation about it. They spent $500,000 in rebranding recently, but those aren't serious. And unfortunately, now we are seeing serious things. And their hand got forced, as you pointed out, because Speaker Vos said, listen, this is really, really important that our university system being providing kids with the education that they need to succeed. And yet the UW system keeps adding positions at all the campuses for things like DEI. And he's concerned, and I think a lot of parents are as well, that the money is going towards that political goal rather than towards the goal of what the rest of us are all writing tuition checks for. I mean, I'm not writing a tuition check right now so that my son has to take all these DEI things. I'm writing a check so he comes out as a successful business major, right? That he can go out and get a good job. That's why I'm writing those tuition checks. And I think the university needs to snap to here, and snap to pretty quickly, because the world is changing rapidly and they have been caught up, as you kind of expect, in the ivory tower atmosphere of the university system, so often segregated from the rest of the community. And they need to make some changes. The world has changed. The UW needs to change.
I think that overall, again, I'm the son of teachers, not administrators. They taught their entire life. In fact, at one point they were asked, well, don't you want, my dad was asked, well, don't you want to get into administration? He said, no, the most important thing that happens is in fact, I often tell people the most important job in life, other than being a parent, is to be a teacher. And yet what we're seeing here in the broader range here is that we're not respecting that. I agree that there can be administrative cuts, in my view, in many different places, because what really is important is that interaction between the teacher and the students. But I do see when you're making dramatic cuts in an area like Platteville, which is an engineering-based campus, that's their niche.
Yeah.
That's a concern. And when we come at this from, and it seems that Speaker Voss really articulates this in terms of, well, we just need to make cuts. And no, they're not entitled to, across the board, they're not entitled to the compensation package that every other state employee is entitled to. I think that that's not a good message for our educational system. And I think the hallmark that has gotten Wisconsin ahead of the game, like in Dane County, the one growth county in the whole state, the biggest growth county in the state, it has been education. Judy Faulkner over at Epic, the exact sciences, the wonderful work that's done there. These things and dozens of other companies that are less well known came there because of the University of Wisconsin. I think let's take a step back and realize we need to prioritize this and make this important. That is not to say that cuts can't be made, especially at the administrative level, but let's never take a step back from the fact that we are committed to education. Just as Scott talked about his son and his need for an education, all parents have that same need. Let's provide that in Wisconsin, whatever it takes.
Let me pick up on a point you just made, Chuck, and that is like the engineering at UW Platteville, right? We have a shortage of engineers in Wisconsin. We actually create more than most states in the country, and we export them to other states. And yet now we're going to cut back on engineering. That's not logical. Somehow the way we have built this system with 13 independent fiefdoms or whatever, and each of them making decisions and each of them having budget authority, has lost the lead of what is necessary for Wisconsin going forward across the systems. They're sort of figuring out how to manage their existing system rather than how do we get to a system that delivers what we need. There should be more engineering ones. I disagreed in an earlier one of these conversations with some of the other cuts that have been done at the university. It should be, the investment should be where the future is. And I don't see us doing that across campuses.
Oh, and boy, do I wish that Scott Jensen could be mouth to ear with Robin Voss, who refused to approve the engineering campus in the UW-Madison. I agree with Scott about the engineers. And by the way, they're the most conservative kids on campus. If you're going to get a higher level of Republicans on campus, it's engineers. Why did Robin Voss stop a $300 million engineering campus that would produce 1,000 more undergrad engineer graduates per year when half of the money for that school was being provided privately? One of the biggest failures of the last 10 years, and there have been a lot of them.
Washington Monument syndrome, isn't it, though? To get everybody's attention, you say we're short of money, let's shut down the Washington Monument. Oh, now that I got your attention, here's the things I'd like to talk about changing at the university system. I think that's what that was.
Well, maybe, but I'm afraid that picking out an engineering campus just showed how far off Robin Voss's values were from almost everybody's, including business people in the state. So it's a very tough situation. It's never easy to make cuts. Some cuts are definitely needed. I mean, I think it never hurts to go through that exercise. But what we need to do is make sure that we prioritize education going forward.
All right. Well, this is a conversation we're going to have again because it's a conversation we've had over the last couple of decades.
See you next time.
You've been listening to The Insiders with Chuck Chvala and Scott Jensen, sponsored by the Wisconsin Counties Association and the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership.